Well, we made it to the spot. Nice and wide open. Not really a whole lot going on. We're gonna get some riding in. Brought out the 250 today. Looks like a nice little double over there. Some hill climbs. Well, we're out at the secret riding spot. Can't really give up the details because it's confidential, but it's a pretty nice little spot. Testing out the new 250. How's she feel?
Excellent. Like a fine-tuned machine, baby. It's like going from a Chevy Nova to a BMW.
Man. So this is the Chevy Nova here, YZ.
There's nothing wrong with those YZs. I like them, but for some reason this KTM just fits me better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is it lighter? Does it feel...
It's lighter. It's more nimble. I have better body contact all the way up through.
Yep.
Inside your legs. From your ankles all the way up through.
Yeah.
A smidge less low-end torque down low, but everything else more than makes up with the cockpit comfort for the rider.
Yep.
You can't beat it. This is going to be a better review than Kiefer puts out.
Yep, 100%.
Right.
They can't compete.
Yeah, she's sweet, man. First
Yeah.
day, what you got on here? Let's see. I just broke the 1 hour mark.
1 hour. Finally getting broken in.
Yeah, this is definitely the way to go, man.
Yeah. In terms of feel, lightness, playfulness.
Yeah. Contact points.
Yep. How's the engine braking compared? Because you haven't even messed with the app at all, right?
I haven't messed with the app at all yet. The engine braking suits me way better. It
Yep.
doesn't slam you forward on
Yep.
the bars, but it's also in map 1.
Yeah.
But I feel like I can be smoother on this.
Yeah.
Instead of low end grunt, bang, out of the turn, and now you're back and forth from the low end grunt to the engine braking in a turn. I felt like it was slamming me around a little bit.
Yep.
I was riding more rigid. This one feels more linear. If I want more, just give it a little twist.
Yeah.
You're there. But the engine braking doesn't slam you forward, you know?
Did you try out map 2 yet or no?
No, I'm going to try it. I'll try it now.
Try it out. Definitely slimmer. That was map 1. We're gonna give it a shot in map 2, and then I'll come back and give the final review. I'm not gonna say anything right now, but it feels pretty good. Wow.
What do you think of that?
Woo! Let me get my bearings here.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
so,
one bad machine, man.
First thing I noticed, the power, way more smooth. The YZ has power right out of the bottom, but up top it dies out. This is basically the opposite. The power comes in so quick, but it lasts so much longer.
It's a very linear curve.
Very linear, but up top it just continues to pull where that dies out.
Yep.
Brakes, way better.
Yep.
Instantly, brakes are better. Feels lighter, feels snappier, more maneuverable.
We better put an order in. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to get one.
Yep, suspension. The suspension's about the same. Both bikes, I like the suspension.
Yeah.
That has the KYB, I love it. This, I love it as well. But the frame on this, way better. The contact points, way better.
The steel frame feels better on that to me
100%.
than the more rigid aluminum frame on this one.
100%. And the quick shifting of this, shifts are so much faster and smoother. That, you have to actually oomph the shifter up.
Right.
This, it's just
A little more refined.
a little more refined. Wow.
Best $12,349 I ever spent.
Yep, 100%. Wow. Yeah, I mean the power comes on different too, but it's a good different.
It is.
Yeah.
Nice, right?
Yeah, she's, man. So another little comparison, this KTM feels like a Toyota Supra, whereas the YZ feels like a big naturally aspirated Mustang, like a big V8. That has the grunt and the power off the bottom and the torque, but it kind of dies out up top, whereas this is like a supercharger, well, a turbocharger when it spools up, and it spools up, and it's just the power's there. It's lighter, it's quicker, feels more refined. Not the immediate grunt off the bottom end, but everything else just way better.
This almost makes you feel like you're riding a two-stroke.
Yeah.
A two-stroke that doesn't have a power band very narrow.
Yep.
A two-stroke with a super wide power band.
Yep.
You know, more maybe like a 250. I've never ridden a 500 two-stroke, but this thing reminds me of a two-stroke.
Yeah, 100%. If
Yeah.
I were to buy a bike right now, it would definitely be this. And I am definitely going to put that up on Facebook Marketplace for sale. Selling that, getting one of these, that's the decision.
Yeah, of all the dirt bikes I've had, right? Now we're going back, but it blows the Suzuki away. It blows my Kawasaki's away, and I've had several of those. I like it way better than the KTM 350, the 2021 350 SXF.
Yep.
It's way nimbler, has a way better feeling in the air. The 350 felt like a boat anchor.
Yep.
And we did the comparison to the newer YZs. But yeah, absolutely. It absolutely reminds me of a larger two-stroke with way more grunt. The framework is super similar to the 19 KTM 150 two-stroke that we have, where you have that good frame contact, light, nimble, wickable.
Yep.
That is the bike. It's taken quite a few years, but we finally found it.
The decision has been made.
The verdict is in.
Yep. We're going to get a couple more shots of this and get some more riding in, and that'll be that. But this has been a good comparison for sure. To finally just get out and test them both back to back in a space where there's nothing going on and you can just feel the bike. All right, so we just finished riding both bikes back to back. The 2024.5 KTM 250 SXF Factory Edition and the 23 YZ 250F. Now, my concluding thoughts are I pick the KTM 250 all day. Now, they both have their pros and cons. The YZ has a wider rear tire, so I felt like in certain scenarios coming up to a jump face or something like that, the YZ had better traction. The KTM did feel a little bit more slippery coming up the face of things and up big hills. So that's one pro of the YZ. The other pro is where the power comes in. So the YZ, most of its power, I notice it comes in the bottom end. It has so much grunt and torque off the bottom. It's insane. If you're in a really deep rut and you're lugging third gear through it or something like that, or you're coming up through a jump and you're a gear too high, the YZ has the torque to just pull you out of that. So that's another pro. But everything else goes to the KTM. So the feel of the bike, the contact points that you have with the frame, the suspension's comparable. I like them both. I like the KYB forks on the Yamaha, but I also like the air forks on the KTM. Some people have problems with them, but I like them. I've had no trouble. So the suspension's about the same, but the chassis feel of the KTM is way better. The contact point's way better. It feels lighter and more snappy. It feels more agile in the air. You can throw it around easier. And the power delivery is probably the most noticeable thing between the two bikes. So the YZ, like I said before, it has that bottom end power, then it's amazing, but it just dies out. Midway to top end, the YZ doesn't compare to the KTM. If you're on a long straightaway just pulling, the KTM just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. Where that YZ, you're going to have to upshift again and again to get that same power. And it's just, it also depends on what kind of riding you do and your personal preference. Obviously, this is all personal preference. There's no facts here. This is just bias of what we feel from our test ride. So if you're riding a big track like Unadilla, where there's a lot of deep holes that you have to come out of, deep bowl turns and things like that, the YZ just has that grunt that's probably going to be better out of that bottom. But everywhere else, the KTM is just better, in my opinion. Now, you also have a price point. So I think the 250 factory edition KTM was like almost 13 grand, where the YZ I think is like 8 or 9. So then, is that price worth the difference? That's for you to decide. But for us, it definitely was. The difference in feel and the fun factor was definitely more in the favor of the KTM. So, is the $3,000 worth that to you? Because the YZ is still an amazing bike. It'll still do everything you want it to. It's an amazing bike. But when we rode both back to back, both of our consensus were the KTM was better in every other aspect besides just the bottom end torque. Now, that's not even messing with any of the tuning. So that new KTM has a tuner on your phone that you can go into and adjust, kind of like the Yamaha. But the Yamaha tuner, I've tried the top end map, I've tried a linear torque map, and it changes it a little bit, but it's nothing substantial. The bike still dies off top end. That's just all there is to it. Whereas this KTM apparently has a new power tuner that we haven't even tried. That's supposedly way more versatile and way better than the Yamaha power tuner. So we might be able to take the torque on the KTM and bring it down a little bit in the RPMs and make it have a little bit of bottom end. So between all of those things, the KTM wins. Now, in terms of quality and component parts, that's another big part of it. On the YZ, the radiator shrouds, they're little black fins. They're super thin, like a little bit thicker than a credit card. Whereas the KTM, those radiator fins are thick. So what happened is we ran into a problem where the radiator would get so hot and packed full of mud. And on the YZ, those fins warped and bent. And it was causing lack of airflow and overheating. So, whereas with the KTM, all the components just seem to be built a little bit better. All of the parts are just manufactured a little bit better. The quality is a little bit better. And again, you're paying for that with that $3,000 price difference. But it's really just up to you if that's worth it or not. At the end of the day, it was a great day. Both bikes were phenomenal, but our winner goes to the KTM.